I'm a fan of Jiva Goswami. Anybody here needs an introduction to who is Jiva Goswami? Okay. You know who is Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya had many followers. You know, Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the bandwidth of all those followers, and amongst them, 6 were especially well-known and prominent, and they were 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Each of those 6, 5 of the 6, were personally assigned Vrindavan as their place of residence and their service. And Jiva Goswami was the youngest. He was he's the nephew of the 2 eldest. Rupa and Sanatan Goswami were the eldest, and he's the nephew. They had a 3rd brother, who died when Jiva was very young. And then Jiva made his way to Vrindavan to be with his uncles. And there he lived a nice, productive life. And he wrote, among other things, he wrote 4 different commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. He liked Srimad Bhagavatam. And I like Srimad Bhagavatam, and I like Jiva Goswami. So one of those was like what Prabhupada wrote, was like verse by verse, called Krama Sandarbha. Then, besides the other 3, one of them was topic by topic. And there were 6 Sandarbhas in that group, and number 6 was called Priti Sandarbha. Priti means affection or love. And the way that he did his writings, he would make a statement and then embellish the statement with expanding the meaning of that statement and then giving scriptural support for each of the sub-statements, and that was his style. So the very first verse of Priti Sandarbha, the treatise on transcendental emotion or transcendental love, begins this way. Without exception, so this is paraphrasing, it's not verbatim. Without exception, everyone wants to enjoy and everyone wants to diminish suffering. Universal. And the way to perfectly achieve happiness, or that which everyone wants, and to perfectly avoid the misery of life, it can be found only by one's relationship with the Supreme. Matured relationship with the Supreme. That's the premise, and then the rest of Priti Sandarbha expands. So one of the problems with the pursuit of happiness, just like it's one of the slogans of the United States, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All men are created equal and endowed with their Creator with certain inalienable rights, namely life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's a problem. Most people don't know what happiness is, nor do they know, even before that, who they are. So what to speak of what happiness is. So this isn't a exposition on Priti Sandarbha, but it's starting with the starting point is the pursuit of happiness requires something before you start pursuing happiness, and that is to know who you are. There's a a little audio recording. Prabhupada was once in New York City, and a reporter from the Daily Post. Daily Post is kind of a sensational newspaper, but well known and well read because people like sensational things. And so the interviewer, paraphrasing the interviewer, it was a radio broadcast, so it was a radio recording, and the reporter asked, a little more elaborate, but Swamiji, you came all the way to this country from India. There must be a message that you wanted to deliver to the people of this country. What was that message? Good question to lead in. And Prabhupada gave a short answer, a little more elaborate than this, but I want to teach people who they are, because most people don't know who they are. That's what I came, to remind them of what they've forgotten, which was the very same message that Prabhupada spoke many, many, many times. I've not come to teach something new. I've come to remind you of that which you have forgotten. That's who you are. Like amnesia, you get bonked in the head and you don't remember who you are. And you're living your life not knowing who you are, or thinking you're somebody that you're not. That's illusion, or Maya. So most people are pursuing happiness in the realm where there's no happiness. It's like looking for water in a desert and thinking they see water in the desert. It's a mirage. There's no such thing as, by definition, a desert is a place without water. The material world is a place without transcendental, or what is real happiness. But people think the mirage is the happiness and pursue it, and it can be deadly, pursuing happiness where there isn't any. What to speak of frustration, but just even living one's life in illusion. That's a problem. So the pursuit of happiness, this is matrix. Which pill do you guys want? The reality pill or the illusion pill? So everyone's going to say reality pill. So although we want happiness, why is life difficult? What's the root cause of suffering? How do I learn to be happy? I mentioned Jiva Goswami, and the eldest of those 6 Goswamis was Sanatan Goswami. And the family, Sanatan Goswami and Rupa and their third brother, were born in Brahmana families, a very elevated, aristocratic birth. Very knowledgeable, very well educated, and in course of time he left his occupation to become a mendicant. He was super wealthy, super honored, with a big position, and he left it all to become a mendicant, living in Vrindavan. And when he first met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not first met, second meeting, he's wearing mendicant clothes, and with a straw in his teeth, as it's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he fell at his feet. A very learned gentleman fell at Lord Chaitanya's feet, clasping his feet, reaching for his feet, touching his feet, asking 2 questions. Who am I? Kayami. And why is it that I am obliged to suffer the threefold miseries of life? Learned fellow. I'm such a learned fellow, I don't even know who I am. And, I'm such a fool that I think, yes, I'm a learned man, because I know so many things, but I don't even know who I am. So who am I? And the threefold miseries. Everyone that has a material body has them, has these 3. miseries of the body, miseries of the mind, and miseries inflicted by other living entities. So, why am I forced? Why am I in this body? And who am I? So those are very fundamental questions. And if one doesn't ask fundamental questions, you're not likely to get answers. But if you ask, you may or may not get an answer. If you ask from the right source, then you can get answers. So first is this distinguishing reality from illusion. This is this little matrix message. Here's a nice illustration. It's a picture of Maya. You've all heard the word Maya. Maya means that which is not. In Sanskrit, ma means not, and ya means this. It's not this. So what's reality? Well, it's not this. It says what reality isn't, but what reality is. So Maya covers a living entity. Maya is a potency. There's a personality behind the potency, but the potency that covers a living entity from knowing who they are. Instead, they accept an identity that's who they aren't. And the three personalities just below Maya, Devi, are the predominating deities, the presiding deities of the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. I assume that you all have some understanding. If you want me to slow down and explain some things, just wave your arm. But three modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. And the presiding deities in the center, that's Vishnu. He presides over the mode of goodness. The creator, Lord Brahma, he presides over the mode of passion. Creating is passion. And the destroyer, Lord Shiva, he is responsible for the mode of ignorance, that which destroys things. And then there's the mixture of these three, and everyone experiences any one of these three predominantly, and a mixture of the other two along with the predominant one. And that's the illusion feature. And in illusion, one may be searching for happiness. Now there's the worldly expression, eat, drink, and marry, for tomorrow you may die. I don't know if you've all heard that one, but that's an American slogan. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. That's not what real happiness is. Here's an image of a lady who is very fond of her bird cage. Now, generally the purpose of a bird cage is for the bird inside. And generally people are attached to the bird inside, not so much to the cage. She's particularly attached to the cage, and she polishes the cage and takes care of the cage while neglecting the bird inside. And the poor bird, he's going to die. Similarly, it's a metaphor where too much affinity for the covering, the body, then neglecting the animating force of the body, the soul within, is a problem for the soul within. And therefore, the teaching of yoga or the teaching of Bhagavad Gita is take care of the body, yes, but most importantly, the animating force within the body. Here's some commentary from a Bhagavad Gita verse on this topic. A conditioned soul undergoes great trouble to obtain a little happiness. After struggling in material life, which is full of hardship and hypocrisy, one may receive a little sense gratification, but this illusory pleasure in no way offsets the burden of suffering one must bear to obtain it. Now, worldly people may not want to acknowledge that they have to work very hard to get whatever they have. or to get more than what they have, or to achieve something academically or financially or socially or politically or athletically. There's a lot of endeavor, generally speaking, and that endeavor is, there may be some pleasure in making that endeavor, but it doesn't offset the hardship one has to undergo. It doesn't offset the little bit of pleasure, and the little bit of pleasure after some time, whatever it is that one has achieved, it's gone. It's the nature of this world. It's dukkalam ashashvatam in language of Bhagavad Gita. It's limited, something, but mixed with the limited happiness, there's distress, and then it's temporary. After some time, whatever that sensation was, the happiness sensation is gone. So the classic is the donkey chasing the carrot. I've never seen such a thing, but there's cartoons of such a thing. An owner of a donkey, he wants to have the donkey pull a big load. So one of the ways to encourage the donkey to pull the big load, big heavy load, is place a carrot on a stick, and the stick is dangling the carrot in front of the donkey's head. So he takes a step to get the carrot, and as he takes a step to get the carrot moves one step, and so forth. And at the end of the day, he gets a carrot. But it's a motivator for the donkey to work hard to carry the load, for the man that's wanting the donkey to carry his load for him. So like a donkey works hard to get a little pleasure, so also the comparison is made. The endeavor for the little happiness that does come from material life is it's a trick of Maya to get us to work hard. And then whatever it is that one gets, commonly it's never enough, or we always want more. Whatever that something is. And that's the way of life in this world. I mean, wars and interactions between one group of people and another group of people, not just nations. It's greed. And there are statistics that say, particularly how people enjoy the resources of nature in the USA, the rate of enjoyment, the rate of exploiting non-renewable resources indicates we would need an Earth that's 3.5 times the size of this Earth if everybody on Earth enjoyed or had resources. The problem is there's only one Earth, and some of the resources are non-renewable. I mean, without too much belaboring it, the whole situation with oil, trying to go green and use something else besides oil, it's not a new one. Battling over with greed is the motivator, who's going to control the oil. And meanwhile, the poor Earth planet is not enjoying the situation. And there's consequences. There's complexity. There's a nice verse along the same line. There you see the dagger at the bottom, and then the forest at the top. So here's the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Krishna speaking to Uddhava. It's called Uddhava Gita, like Bhagavad Gita. The network of material desires is created when one falsely thinks that he can establish himself permanently in the material world. This binding network should be cut by the sword of detachment. Otherwise, one will be forced to wander in the illusory network of Maya, with no understanding of liberated life on the spiritual platform. So that's, a wise person understands, and they don't pursue the Maya part, they pursue the spiritual platform in a purposeful way, taking care of necessities of the body, yes, but not focusing exclusively on accumulation and exploitation of resources. Here's a similar idea expressed in Bhagavad Gita. This is a short presentation, so the verses will end shortly, and we'll have some discussion. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, that's Arjuna, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. This is, acknowledging the temporary nature, the temporariness of material sense pleasure. It's a pursuit, like pursuing the mirage in the desert, or pursuing the little carrot that's at the end of the stick, or pursuing something, and then whatever that pleasure that comes, it's illusory pleasure, and after a short while of what's called enjoyment, it's gone. It's gone. And then the end of life, whatever one has accumulated is gone. So wise persons don't take part in the source of misery. The Sanskrit, yehi samsparshaja bhoga. You all have been around long enough to know what bhoga is. Bhoga is food that's not been offered to Krishna. And after it's offered to Krishna, it has another name, prasadam. So you take something and offer it to Krishna. The act of offering is an act of sacrifice unto the Supreme. And then the Supreme is very kind. He leaves behind his remnants, and that's prasadam. Just this morning I was listening to Prabhupada giving a lecture in Calcutta, recording, of course. And Prabhupada was saying that in India, it's very common that even wealthy people, they'll go out of their way to go to a temple to get prasadam. Because it's prasadam. It's the mercy of the personality of Godhead. And not just like it tastes good, but it's spiritually beneficial. And further, Prabhupada is explaining, prasadam has the power to not just minimize, but eliminate suffering on the material platform. That is, the karmic reaction for my past misdeeds can be dissolved through the spiritual activity of taking prasadam, which is easy for anybody. It's easy to take prasadam. There's somebody I know that their absorption is feeding creatures. They make special offerings to their deity, and they go out into the forest or a park with crumbs, and they feed the squirrels, and they feed the pigeons, and they feed the fish, and they feed the whatever they can, thinking their meditation is, this will purify their existence. Not just they're hungry, so I'll give them something to eat because they're hungry. That may be the case. But the spiritual benefit of receiving prasadam is fantastic. It's not a material activity, it's a spiritual activity. So it's contact with the material senses is problematic, but contact with the material senses with that which is spiritual is liberating. And that's yoga. This chapter 5 is part of the process of yoga. is described, karma yoga, and then leading to dhyan yoga. This is a nice verse pictured on the left. That's Prahlad Maharaj. And he was the son of Hiranyakashipu, and he was rescued from his terrible father by Lord Nrsingadev. Many of you know the pastime. Lord Nrsingadev. One is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. That means material happiness. So we want to be happy. And there's nothing problematic with wanting to be happy or striving for happiness, provided it's spiritual happiness. And if it's not spiritual happiness, it's material happiness. And so endeavoring for material happiness, distress begins. It's the seed for distress, is endeavoring for happiness on the material plane. It begins the sojourn, that long journey of material existence that is distressful, because it's not natural for us. It's like infecting a disease. And the infection of a disease may start pretty mild, but if it continues, it can be very serious. It can be lethal. Certainly can be distressful. So distress begins by endeavoring for material happiness. That's where one doesn't know who one is. So there's lots of instruction in Bhagavad Gita to understand who one really is. Or, as I mentioned, this New York Post interview. My mission in coming to America was to help people remember who they are. So the reporter repeated it. So, know who you are, Prabhupada. Yes, know who you are. If you know who you are, then you strive for that happiness which is in alignment with who you really are. And if you don't know who you really are, good luck. You're going to strive for something that has nothing to do with who you really are, and that's the beginning of distress. The very nature of sense pleasure is it mandates renunciation of enjoyment. That is to say, supposing somebody likes ice cream. That's what this image is meant to show. And if you attempt to have a pleasure constantly, it becomes repulsive. You become overburdened with the pursuit of that happiness, that same happiness. And then there's lust, according to Bhagavad Gita. Lust never satisfies, but burns like fire. There's a recording that's not playing, it's just the sound of fire. This also has a recording, but it's not playing, so that's okay. It's, death has come to the door, and the lady is answering the door, and she says back to her husband, "You wanted to know who's at the door?" He says, "We're out of any time minutes." Death may come at any time. At a certain point, it's any time minutes are over. Oh, there we go. So that's on the dark side, and then there's the spiritual happiness side. With spiritual happiness, there's acknowledgement of who we really are. That's the starting point. There's a series of triangles. The central triangle is the spiritual, and the spiritual is the basis and support of the other three: body, mind, and intellect. And that little skinny guy in the middle, that's the soul. That's who we are. And that animates the body, it animates the mind, it animates the intellect. And we want that if one is able to obtain or ascertain spiritual happiness, and that spiritual happiness is your experience, it radiates like light radiates in the room. Things become illumined when there's light. And then when there's light, then you can see what's what. Or in darkness, you can't. So, spiritual happiness is certainly what's recommended. Here's another Bhagavad Gita verse. A liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. The principle is very simple. It's just redirecting attention. Happiness is somewhere out there. And I just have to get my senses in contact with some of that happiness that's out there. And pursuing it, neglecting the source of happiness, the self, the Supreme Soul, who is also situated in the heart, and missing both because I'm looking for happiness out there. Conversely, when there's happiness within, then any adverse circumstance that's going on around you, you're okay, because there's a sense of shelter, the sense of safety, the sense of protection, and that's something that can't be taken from you. No circumstance can take that from you. No circumstance can give that to you. It's something that has to be acquired from within. Here's another verse, and I'm going to end. This is chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. This is the process of meditation. See the self by the pure mind, and to relish and rejoice in the self, in that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses, established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So going back, the expectation for happiness is the seed. The expectation of material happiness, or senses contacting objects out there in the field of the material energy, that's happiness. And as soon as one strives like that, distress begins, the disease, and then expands. Then the opposite, supposing there's a sense of fullness within. Supposing one has some spiritual attainment by spiritual practice, and it's palpable. And then you pass through some ordeal, because there's always some ordeal in this world. One thing or another thing or 10 things. There's always something. And you're going through that, but you have this base or place of shelter within. And there's a happiness that you're contented with. You never want to leave that. And the other is temporary. So the temporary, whatever it is, happiness or distress or combination or mixed, it's temporary. It's not who I am. The who I am is already discovered. It's very simple, except it's difficult. It's difficult because we have strong attachments to the temporary. I'm going to end with this. There's a nice little statement made by one of Lord Chaitanya's associates. You seem to all know who is Lord Chaitanya. So his name was Jagatananda Pandit. Jagatananda Pandit was funny. He was comical, and he did funny things and spoke in funny ways, but he wrote a book. And in the book, there's a nice saying that I like a lot. He writes, one who tries to cross a river with 1 foot in each of 2 different boats is going to end up in the river. Don't try to cross the boat with 1 foot in 2 different boats. put both feet in the transcendental boat. That's his message. And don't be foolish. Don't get wet. Don't fall into the river that you're trying to cross. The river, or the ocean of material existence. Put both feet in one boat. You can still live your life, whatever that may be, your psychophysical nature and the abilities that you have. Just yesterday I was in College Station, and there's a young lady that I've known since she was a little girl. Now she's a student at College Station, Texas A&M. And I had no idea that she could sing so nicely. So she was the kirtan singer. And it was really nice, really nice. And, along with being a college student, she has some intelligence, a gift from Krishna, but she also has a singing ability. And she understands, this isn't me, it's a gift given by Krishna. And so what do you do when you receive a gift given by Krishna? You give it back to Krishna. And so she's not just singing la la la, she's singing the Maha Mantra in a very simple melody, very sweet voice. And she was absorbed. And because she was absorbed, the people that were in the kirtan were also absorbed. So you probably have such a kirtan singer right here. And music is in every culture of the world. Music is very natural and quite attractive. And so there's spiritual music along with the other kind. And as much as can, you take that spiritual music or the facility of voice and musical instruments and use them in glorification of Krishna. You received a gift and you give the gift. Just like prasadam distribution. Where does the food, where do the ingredients for prasadam come from? From the same source as everybody, not just the store, but ultimately the source of everything is the Supreme. Without the seeds, without the rain, without the earth, without the air, without the ability to nurture and cultivate food items, we don't have. So you receive, and then you distribute. You offer to Krishna and distribute the remnants of prasadam, because it belongs to Krishna. And we want people to have that Krishna connection, Krishna remembrance. It's a very simple process, very based on love, based on acknowledging where everything comes from, and you receive some part of that from which everything comes, and you offer that to the Supreme from which everything comes, and you distribute the same to others, whether it's teachings or music or knowledge or food or whatever it is that's an essential part, basic part of life. That's what we do. That the Bhagavad Gita's teachings, and that's what this project is meant to facilitate. So this is the last slide. This is a nice diagram depicting the Hare Krishna mantra. So maybe at the end we can have a little kirtan and see if there's some discussion. I was told I have to keep on schedule purposefully. I wanted to end timely and see if there's some discussion. Nitagore.
Thank you so much for your lecture. Importance of the guidance of Prabhupada and Krishna. individuals, bringing everybody together. And Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranata. Thank you so much for your kind words. Super excellent.
Okay, well, thank you for your coming and singing for us. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. I was wondering, how can we distinguish between material and spiritual happiness?
Oh.
How do we really know?
There's a part two to this. I can tell by the pause in your voice. And also, is there a part two? That's it. Oh, that's enough. Okay. Well, but their characteristics, or the Sanskrit word is lakshana, the characteristics of matter and spirit. And spiritual anything, spiritual happiness or spiritual anything, isn't limited or temporary. No, limited. So there's material happiness and there's spiritual happiness. Material happiness is limited. Spiritual happiness isn't. And it's a little bit like a seed, and from a seed you can grow stuff. You can grow a tree, or a plant, or a something. So within that seed, there's life. That's why you can grow. And the life doesn't come and go. The body, so happiness on the material plane comes and goes. Bodies come and go, and the happiness of bodies comes and goes. So the spiritual happiness isn't something that comes and it goes. It's something that's intrinsic, and once it's contacted, it's eternal. And by nature, it's ever expanding. This is a very nice teaching that I like Prabhupada's way to say. Those things that are spiritual, they're dynamic. And things that are material, they're static, limited and temporary. So that's a subjective test, and then objective test is from standard wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita. You can have an understanding of whether this is material or spiritual based upon the scriptural authority. Is it spiritual or material? Finally, that which is spiritual is that which is pleasing to Krishna. That the same as I've been using this language, the source of something, or the source of everything. Spiritual is, I'm not at the center, but the source of everything is at the center. And if I align myself to that which is the source of everything, that's spiritual. The happiness is spiritual, by definition. It's not limited and it's not temporary. Now supposing one starts and feels enthusiastic in starting that which is spiritual, and then I turn away, I desist, I become complacent, or become lazy, or become distracted, or become, something, turn my back. That spiritual happiness, that spiritual experience may be forgotten, but it's never lost. That's spiritual. Permanent. It's a permanent asset. There's no such thing in the material world. There's no bank. You go make a deposit in the bank and come back 6 lifetimes later and it's still there. But spiritual is permanent. That's it by its nature. Ever existing. And spiritual happiness is also ever existing. It may be forgotten, but it's ever existing. And that spiritual connection, once the spiritual connection is made, it's inviting for further, 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 further. There's, as we were discussing, like sense pleasure, there's a limit. Supposing somebody likes to eat, gluttony can only go so far. Then it's disgusting. But spiritual happiness knows no limit. Okay.